I want to go through a bunch of my art supplies, my favorite art supplies that I use in most of my classes. And that way you guys can kind of see what you need and what you don't need and any of the other fun things that I'm using that you can experiment with. I give lots of options and brands. So I don't want you guys to think that you need all of it at all. In fact, for most of my classes, especially if you're beginning and you're just starting out, I just recommend, you could even just look at all the videos and then see what kind of art supplies you even want to get. And I would think that if you were starting out, you might want to try different types of canvases, and I'll show you one I'm using and some options. But as far as the supplies go, really don't spend more than you have to do them, because you really just need a few acrylics, something to paint on, and a couple tools for some mixed media stuff. And really, I'm gonna show you guys some options so you know you don't need to get everything. I mean, we all love art supplies, but you'll also find that, you know, you have probably most of the colors that you even need. If you look at this painting, the majority of my pieces for layered petals are in this color palette, which is kind of wide, right? So we've got blues happening, and the blues, you can make many different shades of blues by just blue and a green and maybe even a purple and some white. You can make a million different colors, okay? So pink, I use most of my pink by getting the magenta and then adding different colors to that. And really those are like the two main ones with the white. And I'll show you what I'm talking about, but you really don't need a ton of colors. Now, let's say you loved orange and you loved red and you loved brown, and you wanted to do this class, but you wanted to do it in your color palette, 100% I would go for it. There's a lot of classes that I take that I might not love their color palette, but I really love their style and their technique, and I want to learn something. I just want you guys to know that everything I'm going to show you, and even when I'm doing the classes, I want you to know that, you know, grab the colors that you love. And even when you can see behind me, like I have a really hard time getting away from these colors. Turquoise and magenta are my jam, so I can't help it, and maybe one day I'll try to like move on, but I just wanted you guys to know on the color palette, okay? So what I'm going to show you are colors that I'm using. There are 3 lessons that I'm teaching in this upcoming class. One is on a canvas, one is a handmade journal, and one is on a cradle board. So I just want to talk to you guys first about the canvas. And I am using, this is a 16 by 20 inch canvas. It's kind of bigger than my last few classes. I usually use 11 by 14. The reason I'm using a bigger canvas is so I can be looser. I find that the smaller the canvas and the paper, the tighter I am. Feel free to use 8 by 10, 11 by 14, even a 5 by 7, just if you want to experiment. I don't want you guys to feel like you have to do a 16 by 20. I'm just using it. I just wanted to show you the size. I also love the deeper size of my canvas. I haven't finished this one yet for the sides, but I do love adding things to my sides. This is a brand that I like. It's called Frederick, sorry. And I just want you to know that there are so many options out there for canvas. Now, with everything, most things in life, the more you pay, the better quality it might be. However, if you're starting out, there's no reason why you can't do the class on a canvas panel. And that's basically a not stretched, it's a piece of cotton or linen, but it's on a board as opposed to on wooden stretchers. And there's also different types of thicknesses for your canvas. So you're gonna pay more for a deeper canvas, and you're also gonna pay more for the quality of the canvas. The good news is that in today's world, it's all gessoed and primed and ready to go. You don't have to add any gesso to your canvas. Some people do, I don't, I never have. They should be just ready to roll. So you can look for these online. You could look for them in your art store. Sometimes if you want to do panels and you want to just experiment, you can get a pack of like 6 or 10, and then you can just have fun and play. The other thing too, for any of the newbies out there, is I love painting over my paintings. So you might even have a canvas at home that's perfect, because all you have to do is use what's there and just paint over it. So anyway, that's on the canvas. So again, this is a 16 by 20, and you can use any size you want. I do find I'm a lot looser when I have a bigger canvas to go with. All right, so that's the canvas. We are going to make this little bitty cutie pie awesomeness handmade journal. And I love, 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 love making these journals. Oops, there's a plane going by. Okay, hopefully you guys can hear me. I love making these handmade journals, lots of different sizes, but I came up with a little template for us. It's gonna be in our links, and it will have a template of how to do it. Like, you know, if you ever wanted to do this another time on your own, but I'm gonna go through this in the class too. So what I do to make my journal is I take one sheet of paper. Okay, this is why I'm standing for this first part. It's one sheet of paper. It's 22 by 30 inches. And I love, 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 love Fabriano 140 hot press. And so you can get cold press, which, let me see if I have a piece of cold press around. I think there's one right here. Okay, let me show you the difference. Cold press has, you probably can't tell, it has more indents in it and some texture to it. So it just takes on the paint in a different way. This is a 140-pound cold press. And there's a lot of watercolor artists who love cold press. I actually prefer the hot press, and the hot press is so smooth. Oh my God, it's my favorite. Okay, so Fabriano, it's my favorite, but you can get a similar brand called Arches, and Arches and Fabriano are about the same price. So I get my paper sent from Blick in, it's never, ever, ever, I've never had a problem with it. It comes in a big flat box like this. I usually buy maybe like 4 or 5 sheets. It's a lot cheaper to buy it in a couple sheets like that than it is to go into actually an art store. So sometimes those papers could be about 10 or 12 bucks a piece, but I get mine at Blick and they're running like $6 or $7. So that's not bad to make one journal out of like $6. That's pretty good. So if you don't have a place that has this, if you're in another country, or if you are not near somewhere and you don't want to order online, there are options. I happen to be making this journal out of one sheet of paper, but you can also adjust my template, and you could get the paper in pads. Fabriano makes pads, and so does Arches, I believe. Yeah, Arches does too. This is a student pad, so the quality is not as good as the 140-pound Artistico. It's called Artistico Fabriano, but it's still amazing. I use this all the time, and this is another option. So if you don't want to get a big sheet, you can certainly use this and maybe just fold it in half, and maybe your journal is just gonna be a little bit bigger, and that's perfect too. So I'm gonna show you the way I do it, and you can completely take that template and that idea and make your own in a different shape. So Fabriano comes in pads. This is 50 sheets, and this I got on sale for like 20 bucks. So you're getting a ton more for studio grade, and they work just as great. One of the things that we're gonna do is our cradle board, which I'm gonna show you the cradle boards in a minute, but one of the things that we're going to do is do a watercolor piece, and we're gonna mount it to a cradle board. So in my art supplies list, I recommend, if you're going to buy one sheet, of the Fabriano or the arches by 2, because one sheet is going to cover the whole art journal and the other one could be ripped into the smaller sizes for the cradle board, and you're just going to have extra. And when we work on the cradle board lesson, you'll see that I do multiples at once, and you can, you know, work on 4 to 8 at the same time. So think about that is if you're thinking about getting the large sheets, I just store them flat and I just really love them that way. So that is on the watercolor paper. Okay, speaking of cradle boards or wooden panels are the same thing. And I don't know why I call them cradle boards, because now I keep seeing the name is wooden panels. Don't know why, but there's a few brands out there. I'm gonna show you a few of them. So this one I got on Amazon, Artec, I think, Artec, something like that. I should probably read and put my glasses on, but this is one brand. Blick also has their own brands. Any art supply store are gonna have these. You can get them in packs on Amazon. They're really inexpensive. It's a great way to have a piece of art. And I mean, look how gorgeous that is. Just ready to hang, just like, you know, a whole bunch of these in a corner of your house or in between 2 windows that have a little bit of a tight spot. You can hang these all the way down. So beautiful. And they're ready to go. So you don't have to do anything to them. There's definitely lots of art classes out there where you gesso them and you work on art right onto the board. But in this class, I'm actually doing the art on the paper that I just showed you, and then we're gonna mount it onto this board. So those are some wooden panels, also known as cradle boards. And I'm gonna be working, I think, on a 6x8, which is this size, 6x8. This one right here, just so you know the difference in sizes, is a 5x7. And you can also get them in squares. I think squares are pretty awesome. This is a 6x6 square. They also come with different thicknesses, so you can decide how thick you want it to be. Probably the thinner is probably a little bit cheaper. And you can go into one of your stores and check them out. Some of them too are white. You can certainly get a white one. That would be really beautiful as well. So just some things to look at on the cradle boards. And I also want to tell you, before I start working on the paints and showing the paints, I do want to tell you a couple things. The cradle boards are an option. You don't have to mount them on cradle board. I'm going to show you how I do my art on the paper, and then you can decide, do I want to frame it or do I want to put it in a cradle board? Okay, so that's just so you know, that's just an option to put it on a cradle board. I just thought it'd be fun to show you, and then you can do that for other pieces of your art. And back to the art journal for a second. If you guys don't want to do the Fabriano paper arches or whatever, and you have a journal you already have at home, that's perfectly fine. There's no need to make a journal. It's just a little extra fun thing to do because I love making my own and I want to show you how I make mine. But I also wanted to let you know that you could do everything we talk about in the art journal exercise in a journal you already have. Okay, whew, this is heavy. Aren't they so beautiful? I just like, this to me is like a bouquet of flowers in my art studio. And one thing is, in 2 of our lessons, we're gonna be working on some collage pieces. And I love the art papers. Now I've had these for so many years, and usually I pick up like 1 or 2 extra rolls a year if I'm out and about and I see one. And you can find art papers in a lot of art supply stores. I'm also going to, in our lesson, show you how I make my own collage papers because, hey, we don't always have the ability to go out and get everything, but I wanted to show you some of these fun things. In the collage pieces that I'm going to be doing, I'm not going to be using scissors, and that's why I like the collage art papers over, you know, like the papers that I might find, or wrapping paper or something like that. I really like having papers that I can rip. I'm just gonna show you how I rip them, because in the lessons, I'm using a lot of these. Isn't that gorgeous color? I'm using a lot of this as the leaves and just some beautiful little bits of color that are flowing. And so look, you can take your paper and rip it. And there is a beautiful leaf right there. You can get some look at that. Oh, that is so gorgeous. This magenta and then a little bit of red on top. Okay, so some of the collage materials you definitely probably have at home. And I'm also going to show you how I make some too out of just, I think, some wax paper and butcher paper and deli paper and all that good stuff. Okay, so you don't have to go find them. I just wanted to let you know that I like the kind that you can rip more because I like the little edges and how beautiful they are. I want to talk to you guys about paints. So I love acrylics and acrylic inks, but there is a lot to choose from. And again, all of the links that I have in my art supplies links are just to show you there are so many options. You don't need all of it. You only need a few colors. But I wanted to show you that you can go as cheap as, I think this was like $3. Okay, this is Deco Art acrylic paint. And you know, if you're starting out and you just want to experiment and sort of really think about like the techniques and get some of the ideas down of the composition, go out and get some of these and play around with it. This is a blue. I'm going to actually put a couple down on here so you can see. So this is just a blue I picked up. There's also some, I would call these student grade. Okay, so I picked up these. Look at all the fun things I got to pick up just for this, and then, but then I'll use them too. So we have, there's an Amsterdam brand. There's a Liquitex basic acrylic. There's some abstract Sennelier, I think that's how you pronounce it, in lots of colors. I really like this brand. And all of these are less expensive than the higher end Golden, Nova, and some of the other ones I'm going to show you. But they're great and they work fine. And it's another good thing to experiment with. So if this runs about $3, these are around $5, between $5 and $6. It really depends on if there's a sale and, you know, that kind of stuff. But push these aside for a second. And then I'm going to put a little bit of everything down so you can see the difference. Okay, then when you move into a little bit of a higher end line, we have Liquitex Professional, Golden Artist Color, and I also like, and I use quite a bit, okay? And so the difference is in price. Probably this is the most expensive, the Golden Heavy Body. Nova is pretty affordable, I would say, but there is a minimum. I'm sorry, they don't ship international, but there is a minimum of $40. I just checked on their site. I'm going to be placing an order because I'm probably going to go up in size, but this is their smallest size they have. I think this is 4 ounce. Yeah, 4 ounce. And like this is 2 ounce. This probably cost $8. This probably cost like $8, but you're getting twice as much in Nova. So the other thing I wanted to tell you that if you do order from Nova, you can also request a color chart, and then you can see all the colors actually not printed, but they actually put little dots on a piece of paper and send that to you so you know what kind to buy. I'm a huge fan of Nova colors. You can't buy them anywhere else. They do not sell on Amazon. It's not the easiest thing to get. They are really affordable. The reason I like Nova, and the reason why when I paint, I like Liquitex and even the abstract, is because they're soft body, okay? And the difference between a heavy body and a soft body is that a heavy body is going to be thicker. And some, you know, you might see some acrylic painting out there that's this beautiful, gorgeous, thick strokes, and you can see all the texture. Those artists are using a lot of heavy body paint. I like things a little bit more fluid. I like to mix, and I like to not have it be too thick. So I go with these brands because they're more of a soft body. And then I'm going to show you in a minute, you can go even more fluid. And there's some fluid inks and some fluid paints I want to show you. So let me just do a little demo real quick on these paints so you can see. And while I'm getting that ready, let me go over some of the brushes that I like, because I'll be using those to show you. So my brushes, I am trying to take better care of them. I really, really am. But I don't think you need that many for my classes. I am a big fan of angled brushes. These are called angled shaders, I believe. I really like them because you can paint flat. You can use the line to make an angle. You can go from a thick to a thin line. I also like just the regular flat across because you can get lots of different shapes and dabs. And then I also like a round, which is like of a pointy one. So I would not recommend you go get a ton of brushes, but what I would recommend is that you try some and you just have different options available. You don't want to have one brush. I do like the brand Princeton. You can find these on Amazon and any of your local art store. And I also am crazy about lately King Art. King Art I found online. It's kingart.com, I believe, something like that. I'm sure you Google it and you'll find it. They have an amazing customer service, and I felt like their brushes were really reasonable, and they came in, I just got a pack of, I think, 6 or 7 in a variety pack. That's another great way to go to if you want to experiment, is to just get a pack of a variety pack. But anyway, you don't need too many. I'll probably be using mostly like these. Also, in a few of the lessons, we're going to be using sponge brushes. You can find these in hardware stores, and they're super cheap. You can find them online too. And I just recommend you get a pack of different sizes. You know, you get like 4 or 5 different sizes. The thing about sponge brushes is that once you use one, you want to put it in water. It takes a long time for it to dry. So that's why I work with a few of them at the same time. And then skewers. I think I bought like a pack of 50 of these. But skewers I love to use as well as other tools that you have in your house that don't go get anything. You can use these for mark making. And so lots of different ways to create and put your marks down. And skewers I'll actually use and spread my inks around with them. Okay, we're gonna go with the cheapest one first. This is Deco Art acrylic paint. Look, I didn't open it. Whoopsie. Okay, I'm gonna be naughty and open that up and dip right in. Okay. This is student grade watercolor paper. Actually, let me zoom us down a tiny bit. All right, this is the Deco paint. And I think they're great if you're on a budget. And I couldn't tell you how long it would last for. Like if it was 100 years, I don't know. Let's see if they have a light fast thing. There's some things I'm going to show you on some of the other brands that you can tell how long they'll last. And, you know, for archival reasons. So that's the Art Deco. So I don't mix. All right, let me do the inexpensive ones first. So that's the Art Deco. This is a little bit thicker. Beautiful color. I do like the Amsterdam series. So that's a little bit thicker than that one. This is gonna be the Liquitex Basics. And, oh, this brush is terrible. Hold on. Let me get a better brush. I would say that the Liquitex Basics and the Amsterdam are very similar. They're not too thick. I'm gonna put the thick one down next so we can see. They're even. This one, you can already see the difference of the lowest end one. It feels really flat in color and not a lot of texture. So you may end up having to really build this up quite a bit. If you were painting and you were doing some layering, you might find that this doesn't work as well if you want to do lots of layers. And then let me just put, oh, I was going to do this one too. Hold on. This is the acrylic Amsterdam, not Amsterdam, abstract. A little bit thicker. Okay, and now moving on up. This is Cobalt Teal by Artist Golden. And let me just tell you guys a couple things about when you get into a higher end paint. I want to just show you a few things. There is a light fast number on your paint, okay? And this stands for, I wrote it down somewhere, American Society of Testing and Materials. So this has been tested by a company, a third-party company. And so Lightfast 1 is excellent. Lightfast 2 is very good. So the number 1, this is going to last the longest, you know, as far as sunlight in it and that kind of things, where you're putting it and things like that. Also, there's another number on here that's really important when you get into the higher end paints. It's called series, and you can go from a series 1. I think you can go up to a 9 or an 8. I'm not 100% on how high they go, but the lower the number, the cheaper it is. So when you get up into the 7, 8, 9 range, it's because the pigment, the raw material used to make this paint was more expensive to buy for the manufacturer. So you'll see series on, let's see if this one has series. Hold on, this is a series 1. This is a series 7, and they're both in the blue family, but obviously that turquoise was probably harder to get. Let me see if I can find another one so you can see. This is, I'm going to show you this in a little bit. This is Cobalt Turquoise, and this is a series 8. So think about that when you're in a store, because you might see a big sign and it says 30% off golden paint. And then you have to look at the little print, because it might say series 1 might be $7, but series 8 or 7 might be $14. I just wanted you to know that not all acrylic paint in the same brand is the same price. So be really careful when you want to move up from some of the lower end student grade. All the colors will be the same price. But when you get up into this grade, then it becomes per series. Okay, I'm sorry if that was a little confusing, but look at this dreamy color. So all right, so this is the more expensive one. This is probably the most expensive one. Now I'm going to show you some Nova. Okay, so they come in these tubs. Look how, okay, don't judge me right now on my sides because I'm not very good at keeping that clean. I know. All right, let me grab this brush. So I am a big dipper. I don't know if you can tell, but it's so smooth to work with. I think the reason why I like the Novas over the other paints is this is 100% preference, is I really like the smoothness of the Nova than all of the lines and textures. So there's something about that that's my own personal preference. So you may be really into the textures, and that's fantastic. But the Nova is definitely smooth. This is a new one. This is Liquitex Soft Body Acrylic. I bought this just for this. So let's see. Never used this one before. It comes in like a little squirt. Ooh, that looks kind of cool. This one, I couldn't tell you the price on that one, but I think they run about maybe 10 bucks. I do have to make a little side note on the pricing of things. The prices of paints are through the roof right now. And I wish I could say they weren't. Oh, you guys, this is really nice. Ooh, dreamy. Okay, I would say just from painting right now, the Liquitex Soft Body Acrylic is very similar in painting and texture. These are very similar to each other, okay? So if you can't get Nova and then see if you can find Liquitex Soft Body Acrylic. If you wanna even get one, just to sort of compare and get one of your favorite colors, because that and that, ooh, dreamy. Okay, so that is a little demo on the different textures and thicknesses and pricing for some of the paints. And then I'm going to do the same thing with some of the inks. And I just also wanted to let you know, like when I'm working on palettes, when I'm working with a palette, let me move us back up. No, I'm going to leave us where we are. I'll either use a palette pad, which I ran out of, but a palette pad you can buy in a store and there's just sheets. I also use my palette sheets for collage. Okay, so just wanted to let you know. You can also buy rolls of 3mm thickness plastic and just cut these up into sheets. You can also use a piece of glass. You can use, these are awesome, you guys. I found these are just, when, you know, you go into a grocery store and you may buy a bunch of things and like some deli stuff, then you can use these and put a piece of paper towel in here and then just cut a piece of butcher paper and put it in here, some wax paper, and you can use it that way. The thing that you don't want to use is you don't want to use paper plates and you don't want to use paper, anything, because it will absorb all your paint. And now, as we know how expensive paint is, you want to just make sure you can keep it as, you know, keep it going as much as you can. You want to make sure that if you did put a bunch of paint out and you had to go somewhere, I often put a piece of saran wrap or plastic wrap over them to keep them nice and fresh. And then you can use them the next day, no problem. So, and then only just squirt a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna show you some inks and some fluid paint because I use a ton of fluid paint. My number one favorite fluid paint to use is titanium white. This is my fourth big one. You absolutely don't need one this size. You can get the 1 ounce and that's all you need for a long time. So Golden's the most expensive, but this is a series 1. It will be the cheapest out of all of the high flow would be white. And the reason why I love this is because I love to mix all of these colors. I'll be mixing with white, and you can do so many different values with it, but I just love using a high flow acrylic as my mixing medium, then a mixing medium, and water. I never use water to mix with. So this is just one that I love. I use it a lot, and I just wanted to show you. I always get the big one because I use it so much. The 1 ounce, that's all you need, and not to worry about that. But I do want to show you that Golden has 2 fluid paints. They have a high flow, and they also have a fluid, and I'm going to show you the difference between these two. And I just wanted you to know that there's this, and then there's also the acrylic inks, and I use all 3 interchangeably. So when you see the supply list and you see all of those listed, that's just because pick one. You don't need all of them. Just pick one brand you like or one type you like. But the inks, the fluid paint, or the high flow, I use them the same way, and I use them on their own, and I also use them to mix. So that's my little thing on that. When you see all those colors, don't freak out. Just get the colors that you like, and if you had to choose, I would get a magenta, a turquoise, and a white, just so you have the white to mix with, and then we can make other colors with the titanium, with the magenta and the turquoise. Golden little ones come in 1 ounce. I believe they come in 4 ounce, 8 and 16, something like that. So you can get them in different sizes. If you're new, I would highly recommend that you just get them in the 1 ounce. Okay, so this is the fluid, not a high flow, all right? This is a high flow, and this color is dioxine purple, if I said that right. I'm gonna put that there. So that's definitely more watery. It's more, has more fluid to it than the fluid regular. Out of the Goldens, and then this is the ink, all right? And let me grab a brush. So let's do this one. So this is the fluid. So it's like a paint. And I'm just gonna mix in a little bit of, whoopsie, oops, I didn't shake this. Hold on, I gotta shake it over here. Now I would normally be working with a pad, a palette paper or something. So when you add the white, you really do get such beautiful colors when you, especially when you have this dark fluid paint. But you can, the more white you add, the more you're gonna have different values to it. But that's just to show you how it paints. It's beautiful and it's great to mix in. So let's do this one. All right, so this one was the Daler Rowney acrylic ink. I'm just gonna put a little white here. So one, I'm just gonna show you the difference between the fluid and the ink. That beautiful color. And then if I wanted to add some white, you know, it's a whole nother game. Okay. And then this one was the high flow, just like the white. Did I do that right? Yeah, I think so. Oh, it's so beautiful. But you can see right away that it's just as fluid to me. And that's why I mix them, and I will either grab my bottled stopper inks, acrylic inks, or I'll grab my high flow. I use these probably more than I do the fluids, and that's just because I think I have them available in my art studio. I wanted to show you my favorite color. Can you tell? The quinacridone magenta is in the high flow. This is a series 7, and this comes in this is the 4 fluid ounce size, but I use this all the time, and I don't know if I can get any out right now because, oops, I can. I just want to show you one of the things that I love to do with my skewer is to just spread them like this, just for some marks. And let me just show you when I add a little white to that. And the thing that we'll be doing in the class too is that we're layering all this on top of each other, layering and layering. And so that's why I love working with acrylics, because they dry so fast and you can just layer right over. So when you're working with the acrylic inks and the high flow, you get some transparency in there as opposed to if you were working with the more opaque colors. I would suggest you pick up, let me just show you a couple other brands of the inks too. Just pick up a turquoise, pick up a magenta, and pick up a white if you want to experiment and play around with the same color palettes that I'm using, or pick them up in your favorite colors. Amsterdam, Daler Rowney are the same thing. I actually, for some reason, prefer Daler Rowney, and I think it's because I like the stopper better. I don't know, I'm just crazy. But you can find either or in a lot of places. These Goldens will be more expensive, but don't spend a lot. Just get a couple, try them out, and you'll probably love them the way I do. I use them quite a bit, but they last a really long time, so don't go out and buy a ton. On my supply list too, I think there's a couple links for like a little 6-pack, so you can try some colors, and that's all you need to experiment with to see which ones you love. So that's the acrylic. If you have any questions, let me know. All right, we have in the lessons, we'll be working with colored pencils a lot, and they can be any types of pencils you have. I will be using a regular lead pencil. I will be using different brands that I have. It doesn't really matter, you guys. We're only going to be doing them in our sketchbooks and on our smaller pieces. We won't be using these on the canvas, but it's really for you to experiment with different lines for the art journal. The Neo Color 2s I love because, okay, just so you know, 2s are water soluble. You need those over the 1s. The reason why you want to have 2s is that you can do some beautiful blending. Like in here, this is the blue 2, and then you can take a paintbrush and water it down and get some beautiful like watercolor look to your piece. And I just love them. So I think like you can get a pack of 15, or you can go into your store, which I do from time to time, and pick up 3 colors that you love. That's all. You don't have to go buy a whole bunch. You can pick up, you know, like magenta, turquoise, a white, and maybe a green. And that's all you really need for my classes, but just to show you that there are these. We can also use pastels on some of the art journal work, and then we'll just do a little fixative, but don't go out and buy pastels if you have them. That's just another way to create a mark on your art journal, okay? And then paint pens. I love paint pens. They're so much fun. I love the Posca brand. I also love the Sharpie brand, but Posca I think is my hands down favorite because you can get so many colors. The colors are dreamy, and they're a great investment even if you need to get a couple of them. I just like doing lines. Let me show you in here. Where is it? Just adding lines on top of some paint that's already down. I just think they're great. You just have to make sure that your paint is really dry, because these do not work when your paint is wet. You'll ruin them. So it's one of the last things I do to a canvas is add some paint pens. Then I just want to show you some miscellaneous things that I have that we will be applying the Cradle Board panel, the art on the panel, with Yes Paste. You could also use matte medium, and you could also use Mod Podge. So Yes Paste is great. I use a palette knife to put it down, and you can move it around to make sure it's in a perfect spot. And I got this on Amazon, but you can, if you don't have this and you have matte medium at home or Mod Podge, don't go out and buy it. You probably don't need it that much. The collage pieces, I end up using a lot of matte medium or Yes Paste, so you really don't need to go buy something new, and you don't need to get the Yes Paste, but I do really like it, so I just wanted to show you that. It's a fun new accessory, okay? And so the other thing I want to tell you that's optional too is that some people like to put clear gesso down in their journal when they're working with mixed media. And so if you want to do that, that's totally up to you. Once I put my paint down, maybe I'll do a coat of clear gesso, and then I'll put some of my Neos or my pastels or my colored pencils on top. It just gives you a little bit more tooth, and it's fun to work with. So again, you don't need it for the class, but if you want to play around with it or get a small little container and see the difference on different pages, that's really fun to do as well. A couple other things would be that if you are going to make the journal, I have a awl that I will poke a couple holes in. You only need to do this for 3 holes. So maybe there's another tool you have that you want to do that with. I have that. I thought, oh, there is. And this is just this bookbinding thing I got, but I'm going to use a different string. I'll probably just use some like hemp twine or something like that, but you just need a big enough needle so that you can thread through your hole. And again, you don't need much. This is the thread I use, and it just kind of holds it together, and it's fun. This has been really battered around, and it has lasted. So it's a great way to sort of tie up your book together, your little journal. All right, what else? Let me just do a little checky poo on the list. That's it, I think. Yeah, that's it. I ordered some deli paper too because I want to use that and put them in between my journal pages. But I think that is it, what I have. And again, I can't stress enough, I'm going to turn this back around. I can't stress enough how important it is to know that you don't need to buy everything. Okay, was that fun? And I have a heater on too, so I'm like, whew, my hot, because it was cold this morning. Just to recap, don't go buy everything unless you want to, but you don't need it. I will be also going through about, why I'm inspired so much by these flowers and stuff like that. So if you have any questions, let me know. And maybe you have some awesome art supplies too you want to share with the group. Thank you for joining. Mwah! Have a good one.